Okay, well, I'm gonna start the presentations down here. I mentioned to some of you, or all of you up there, that this room down here is rather unique, and it's a real treasure for us ex-cadets, and we're so thankful for Royal Roads University to allow us to use this space to display some of these wonderful artifacts that used to hang in perhaps different areas of Royal Roads Military College. And we were recognized for this effort by the Royal Military College of Canada. And just before we do the special presentation, I want to acknowledge via a plaque that was received from the Royal Military College of Canada to the Vancouver Island Ex-Cadet Club. And I'm just going to read it off to you, if you don't mind for a second. It's the President's Award from the RRMC. And it's addressed to the West Coast Group of 13. And the names are 2444 John Charles, who unfortunately is no longer with us, 3237 John Mothersill, 3334 Dave Whiteman, 4905 Kent Foster, 5868 Scott Clemens, 6216 Willie Anderson, 6593 Reg Bird, 7151 Russell Moore, 7454 Richard Young, 9318, guy named Dave Binnernagel, 10263 Don Lovell, 10277 John Miller, and the Vancouver Island Honorary Member Chaplain Don Hadfield, Honorary Member RRMC Class of 72, and this was presented by the President of the RMCC Club of Canada on October 1st last year. So this plaque will be on display down here as well, and I think it's a nice recognition from RMCC that the work we're doing out here means something, okay? Now, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a special presentation this evening, and I am very pleased and honored to call on Dr. John Mothersill, the last principal of the Royal Roads Military College, to make this special presentation. John?
Thank you. For the last 30 years almost, I have been custodian of the gown of the principal of Royal Roads Military College. And it's now my pleasure to turn it over for safekeeping to Royal Roads University, to Provost Steve Grundy and President Alan Cahoon. The history of the Regalia is that in 1984, when I was offered the position of principal and accepted, I received a phone call from the registrar who asked me my height, chest, and waist measurements. I found out later that they were, in fact, coming up with a robe for me. Eric Graham, the former principal, and John Duffus, the former acting principal, were people that were involved in this project. The gown, as well as the mace, portrays the history of the college. Behind me, which you cannot see, is the mace. However, the principal's regalia is much more colorful than the mace. And it shows the HMCS Royal Roads insignia from 1940 to 1942, the Royal Canadian Naval College at Royal Roads insignia from 1942 to 47, in which 2-year programs were offered, and then the short-lived RCAF Joint Services College, 1947 to 48, and then finally the Canadian Services College, Royal Roads in 1948. There was a name change in 1968 in which it was changed to Royal Roads Military College. There were 3 items that occurred along this line. It began in 48 as a 2-year feeder college to RMC. And then in 1975, we received the Military College Degree Act by British Columbia, and we began our first four-year programs. And then later, in the late 80s, we offered master's programs as well. And when we open the curtains beside me here, you'll be able to see the insignia of the various four institutions that were involved.
Hang on, John. The four military institutions from 1940 to 1995. And here we have the MACE, which is the other academic aspect of this presentation. Thank you. Just one further thing I would like to say is I hired this young man. I think it was in 1988. We can't remember. We're both getting older. He is now the provost of Royal Roads University. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Mothersill. Well, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Mothersill, of course, for donating his regalia. And is this my regalia now?
No.
No, because mine's looking a little worse for wear, and that does look rather nice. I'd also like to thank Maritime Forces Pacific and CFB Esquimalt Naval and Military Museum for their ongoing support for our efforts to preserve and reinforce the rich military history of Royal Roads. This regalia, like the mace, represents, for me, a kind of closing of the circle between the two institutions. I arrived, as John said, I'll say in the late 80s, teaching chemistry as fresh-faced and keen, and landing in a military college for a university professor was a strange transition for me. Over the years, I realized that not only were the cadets getting a first-class education, but they were getting so much more, and you all know how much more that was. When Royal Roads Military College transitioned to Royal Roads University, I was fortunate to remain and become part of the new university. And I have to say that we did try to preserve, and I think we've been successful in preserving many elements of what made Royal Roads Military College something special, and tried to transfer that to Royal Roads University. Now, obviously, we couldn't transfer everything that you went through to Royal Roads University. Some things just would not transition well. But many things did, particularly the emphasis on leadership, particularly the emphasis on teamwork, interdependence. All those things are still present and are now embedded firmly into the teaching and learning model at Royal Roads University. And just in case you were wondering how many CF personnel are currently enrolled at Royal Roads University, I can tell you that the number's 84. And it's growing, and it's been growing every year. And I don't think it'll be long before we'll be the same size as Royal Roads Military College in terms of training Canadian Forces personnel. This regalia, as I said, it represents that connection with the best of Royal Roads Military College and the best of Royal Roads University. And again, thank you, John, for this kind donation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, John, Steve. Again, this is, as you've mentioned, a wonderful addition to this space down here. And it is critical that we recognize the importance of the academic part of the Royal Roads Military College life. Dr. Cahoon, thank you again for being with us tonight. Really enjoyed it. And I think we've heard this evening a number of comments about transition and change, etc. And isn't it remarkable that the current Royal Roads credo or whatever is called life changing? How appropriate it fits for what we've been talking about this evening. I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention, and thanks to the Fleet Maintenance Facility at the base for their craftsmanship. We do have, unfortunately we weren't able to show it tonight, we do have another display case for the mace. The Regalia will be going into the case here on my right, and the mace will be going into another one which was fabricated by FMF, and I want to give them credit for that. So ladies and gentlemen, that's it for the formal presentations for this evening. If you have not had a chance to come down here and look at this space, or to go to the museum in the basement of the castle, I encourage you to do so. It's well worth looking at. And if you're not going to be here for Sunday's event at the Mass site, please take a few moments to go over and have a look at the Mass site, particularly if you haven't already bought a paver stone. So this is a plea. When you go there, if you don't see your name in a stone, please get one. Okay, thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening. That's it. Take care.